When you come around that corner and you put that move on that lineman and you turning and he's squared up in that pocket, you know you can't hear anything at this point.
Right.
It's like you in a tunnel and it's just like that. It's quiet.
Yeah.
And when you hit him and drop and you hear that oof from him, that's the first thing you hear is the oof from him. And when you open your eyes or you look up, it's like somebody just like took headphones off of you and the crowd is there and chill. Give them now.
You're such a physically big, tough guy that you can just manhandle people. And were you a big guy in high school?
You know, I was a short, fat kid when I was in, like, grammar school, and then, like, I got picked on a lot. But I was, like, always the wise-ass kid. You know, like, you'd beat me up and stuff, then I'd run, like, 50 yards, turn around, flip you the bird, and, like, try to run away and get beat up again. And then as time went on, I got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then those kids, I wouldn't run anymore. They would run. It would like that.
And when do you start to excel at sports? Weren't you a wrestler of some sort?
Yeah, I was a state champ in New Jersey, wrestling.
Wrestling is the hardest sport, isn't it? I mean, real legitimate wrestling.
It is. It is. It's. Let me tell you something. And being, you know, you can be in the best shape ever, the best football shape ever.
Right.
And you'd like go out there the first day, you think, oh, I'm in pretty good shape. You know, I've been playing football for like 3-4 months, and all of a sudden you get in there and you're like dying. I mean, it's like it's the hardest thing ever.
And you became a state champion.
Yeah. I was the first state champion of my high school. Yeah, there's been a couple since then. I mean, in a small school. I mean, I only graduated with like 170 kids.
Oh, and in a tiny school.
Yeah, tiny
You're
school.
the state champion. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And the old man, your dad, who was a tough old man, right?
Yeah, tough guy.
I mean, he would whip you with a belt.
Well, he didn't really whip. Yeah, I got beaten a couple times. Yeah, absolutely. But the belt would be like on the doorknob, and like when you messed up, like in my house, I had 2 other brothers. He wouldn't even like. He would just like be eating there, and he'd like casually just look over to just make sure his belt was there, and you were just like, oh.
And then you behave.
Yeah. My father was cool. Listen, my father was, he was the greatest dad ever, man.
Was he?
The greatest. The greatest. He was, like you would get a spanking. Respect was like the biggest word ever. Like you respect. Listen, you come in my house, even in my house now, you walk in my house, I don't care who you are, my kids will get up, they'll look you right in the eye, they'll shake your hand, hello, nice to meet you, is there anything I can get you?
They're well-mannered.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm big with that.
Right.
One time I said no to my dad. Like he's telling me like, I said no. And he like sort of looked at me, and I took off. I ran up the stairs. He came right up after me, and I slammed the door closed and locked it. And his arm came right through the door. Boom! And, like sort of like a Freddy Krueger, like he's looking around, like trying to, there's big holes in the door. I'm like, oh! I'm like screaming, and I'm on the second floor, and I'm like, how do I get out of here? There's like no way.
He punched through the door,
right through the door,
and he starts.
He starts like grabbing, like I'm like, oh my god, this is like a movie. And my mother's like, Pete, she's screaming, Pete, leave him alone. He's, like that. Don't you ever say no to me. I'm like, I didn't know. And like, it was crazy because he would never fix the door. So like growing up, even like through high school when I was big, I always had to put a poster over my door. Like I'd have my buddies over and they'd be like, oh, you got a poster on the inside and the outside of your door. That's pretty cool. I'm like, oh yeah, don't look.
That's real cool. When you were growing up as a kid.
Long time ago.
Deep South, right?
Right.
Where'd you grow up?
In Mississippi.
Mm-hmm. Lots of racism, lots of stuff to put up with. Were you chased a lot as a kid? Is that where you got your great running speed?
No, I was not chased a lot as a kid, but I knew about racism and I knew how to deal with it.
What do you mean? You learned it early?
Oh, yeah. Because,
N-word thrown at you a lot?
I'm sorry?
The N-word, was it thrown at you a lot? When
I used to hear it, yes.
You did?
Yes.
By the white man?
Yeah, but I never let that stop me from achieving what I wanted to do, and I wanted to play professional football.
But you didn't want to play football. You got into football how?
Playing hooky.
That's right, you were bad.
What?
I was a bad boy.
And they forced you to play football.
Well, after I got disciplined, then the principal wanted me to go out for the football team, and I went out and gave it a try and just
Were you great right away?
No, not at all.
How old were you when you started playing football?
I think I was around 16.
You're 16 years old and your great speed hadn't come out yet?
No, I was.
You didn't run track?
No.
You didn't do any of that other stuff?
I was a nerd.
Oh.
I was just a nerd off to myself.
So you try out for the team, and it wasn't like the principal knew something about you. He was just trying to get you off the street.
No, he just noticed it. Yeah, he just noticed I could run fast.
but the principal puts you in this thing. You're probably belligerent at first. You don't want to play football. You get on the team. You somehow make the team. You must have been scared out of your mind if you're a nerd. You got big guys chasing you, and you can get hurt.
Well,
no?
I felt out of my element because as a nerd, I was off to myself. All of a sudden, I had to become a team player, and I worked at it, and I put that extra in, and I was able to become a starter.
Right away, did they know that you should be a wide receiver? Was that your first position?
I played wide receiver and I played defensive back.
What about catching the ball physically?
I always had big, humongous hands.
Were you good at it right away?
I wouldn't say I was good at it, but I had that little extra.
So when do you start to become a star where people don't think of you as a nerd, but you are the man?
When I became a starter, I noticed the females, they started looking at me in a different direction.
When you say you were a nerd, you'd never gotten girls, you'd never gotten laid, you were 16.
I didn't know. That's right. I was, until I was 18.
18 you got laid?
Yeah.
18 because at 18 you started to get written up in the newspapers?
Yeah, I guess like you said, I was a star. And
Did your family, because you come from a poor family, did they start to go, this could be our ticket out of here?
No, you know what,
you?
Howard, to be honest with you, I felt if I made it to the pros, I could do a lot for my family. And so the first thing I wanted to do when I signed with the Niners, I bought my mom a house.
I felt you were angry in your career with Deion Sanders. True or false?
Well, Deion and I, we were very competitive, and he was the flashy, flamboyant, type of defensive back. And yes, I wanted to get up in the skin.
You are a class act. Everyone says that about
I try
you.
to be a class act.
And the fact of the matter is that Deion Sanders went ahead and signed with another team, and he flaunted things, and this pisses you off. So you're not always...
because I think football is a total team sport. And, Deion came to us. He did some great things on the football field. He was an excellent corner, and he helped us to win a Super Bowl. But everyone made it seem like it was all about Deion.
But you were angry with him, too, that he signed with another team after that. He should have stayed with your team, and you should have gone on to win another Super Bowl.
I would have loved to have gone on to win another Super Bowl.
Right.
It was all about winning Super Bowls.
Did you confront him? Did you say to him, listen, asshole, I don't like you? And do you curse, by the way? I've never heard you curse.
Yes, I can curse. I can say very profound words.
Would you ever call him a bad name?
Not on radio. I knew, when he went to the Cowboys, I knew it was going to be a big-time rivalry, all over again. And I think so many people connected because they wanted to see us do battle. Mm-hmm. And I was able to win some of those battles.
Does it piss you off that when you were playing for the Giants, they never won?
We had some good seasons. We went to one Super Bowl.
Right, but then when you leave, they win.
Well, you know what? It's time for everybody, right? An athlete, you look great. On field, you're still putting up great seasons. In the ring, you're still, you look fantastic. Your body's in great shape. But right? You know that you've missed that step or if you've lost that step and it's going to fall off that cliff pretty quickly. That happened to me.
Well, that was the question about you, because did you retire too early? That's what a lot of people ask.
Fans think you retired too early.
From a fan perspective, probably. Because
Right.
I could have given you a couple 1,400-yard seasons. And honestly, Howard, being in New York, I didn't see you here a lot, but I was doing media for 10 years. I was right down the hallway doing Sirius with my brother, and all these other things
were going
and they were becoming more interesting to me.
Yeah.
And so I lost a passion to do what I was, made a professional career out of because I was getting beat up. I couldn't go home and play with my kids because my knees were hurting and my body was aching. And so I said, I got all these other opportunities. Let me do that. And to be perfectly honest, I didn't think we were close as a team to winning a Super Bowl.
As a New York Giant, you had a lot of goodwill in the sense that, hey, you're a great player, people love you, this and that. So when you retire, you become critical of Eli Manning. You're an honest guy. You said, screw it. I'm going to talk about what you felt that Eli wasn't playing up to snuff.
It wasn't even about him playing up to snuff because he was gradually and almost exponentially getting better every year after year after year.
But you were frustrated with him. Because,
of course I was.
Yeah.
Of course because I was 31 years old and at the end of my career, and we were starting Kurt Warner, who was leading us on a great season, Eli's first year, and then we replaced him. And all of a sudden, now at 28, 29, I'm starting over with a rookie quarterback who's we know he's going to get there.
Yeah.
Because he has the pedigree, but whatever. It was a stupid comment.
Right.
I was trying.
What was the comment you made?
I was saying that Eli's leadership skill is because the way he talks and the way his manner is, it's funny, right? It's not. I'm not
He's
saying
awkward and
I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. It's entertaining, right?
Right.
We shoot basketball in the with our tape balls after we did our ankles, and we try to shoot it into the the trash can. And we'd always be rejecting each other and stuff like that. One day I'm shooting at Eli, butt ass naked, comes and just rejects it right in my face. I'm like, what are you doing, Eli? But it was funny, right? But that was how he engaged with folks.
But wasn't there a
2 days later?
Yeah.
2 days later,
right?
Whichever one of these beat brag guys goes to Eli and says, Tiki said your leadership ability is comical.
Oh, dear.
Right. It was taken out of context.
Taken unbelievably out of context, and he responded to it. Right?
What did he say?
Tiki's made that transition. He's in the media. He doesn't, he's forgotten. Whatever it was,
He
it
took
didn't
offense.
matter.
Right.
It created two silos, my silo and Eli's silo.
Did you call him?
I called him the next day.
And did you get a hold of him?
I did not get a hold of him. I called him the next day and said, Eli, I apologize. That did not come out the way it was supposed to. I did not mean any offense. And we were fine. It became a media storm for a week, 2 weeks. And then they go through the season, the ups and downs of that 2007 season. We all remember it. They were playing horribly at the end of the year, and then they hit that spark.
Right.
It
gelled.
They exactly.
Pulled it together,
They played the New England Patriots in the preseason and the regular season, end of the season. They lost, but they hung with them. Right. And it gave them confidence and a belief that they could play with anybody. They carried that through the playoffs and then beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Because the Giant fans booed you at some point.
They still boo me.
Yeah, right. Because they consider you a guy who retired too early. They're mad at you for protecting your body and retiring too early.
Exactly. And I missed the Super Bowl. It's like a Shakespearean play.
Are you hurt by that? Does that affect your life?
Not really.
When you walk around the street, do Giant fans say to you, "Hey, Tiki, fuck off"?
No, actually, Giants fans say, "I appreciate what you did for us." I think time has made them realize, you know what, I was just a great player. And the only thing that ever hurts me is when people are ignorant and say things like, you sucked, or you were horrible, or whatever, that diminished what I accomplished as a player and what I did for the New York Giants for 10 years.
When you were a player, you separated your shoulder. You went in the game anyway. And what you did, because you were a tight end, if you had to catch a ball, you would knock it down with your good hand and kind of push it into your chest and carry the ball, right?
Well, it was similar to that. I mean, I did play where you had one arm, one shoulder strapped down, but you played. I mean, you have a harness on it where it couldn't move a certain way. It was harder to catch a football because only one arm went up in the air.
Right.
But you could do it.
You did it. Yeah. But a lot of guys...
So what about these guys who sit out when they have an injury?
The game's different. I mean, it's all about money.
Right.
I mean, they're going to jeopardize their career to play one game, and their earning power, and plus, it's just a hard thing for them to do, really. And I'm not sure I blame them. I mean, I can get my shoulders up, but it hurts.
You were voted, I guess, like the #1 tight end of all time and all that. You didn't get a lot of money to play, did you? I mean, you were kind of...
my first contract, and no, this is a long time ago. No,
right.
We got to put things in perspective. 1961.
Right.
I signed a $12,000 contract with a $6,000 signing bonus. That's $18,000. But in '61, my dad worked in a steel mill, so everything's relative.
But what was the game plan in life for you? In other words, when you're making $12,000, yeah, okay, that's a lot more money than your dad was making. But still, didn't you worry that you'd get out of football? Who knew you were going to be the great coach? Who knew what was going to be? What was the game plan? It could have gone horribly wrong, right?
There was no game plan in my life at all when I played with the Bears.
Just football.
My game plan came into focus when I went to Dallas with the Cowboys. I played for the Cowboys for 4 years. We won a Super Bowl. I played for Coach Landry. I coached there for 9 years as an assistant coach, and then I became the head coach of the Bears. So if I would have never went through that process in Dallas, I doubt that I would ever become head coach of the Bears.
When you were a coach for the Bears, I always meant to ask you, like Jim McMahon wasn't a great quarterback in the sense of the all-time greats. So you don't need a great quarterback to win, do you? You just need a competent quarterback.
Jim McMahon was a winner and a leader.
Right.
But if you're talking about physically, he couldn't come close to Marino.
Right. So your point of view as a coach now is that you give me a guy who's a leader, but he doesn't necessarily have to be physically the best quarterback that ever lived, who throw the farthest, this and that. You come up with a game plan. It's really a team sport.
Let me ask you something, because I always wonder, what is the importance of the coach? You know, like these coaches now have become superstars of the game.
Well, you know, you're right. The players play the game, you know, and I said, somebody once said that there's no coach worth a player, but I disagree with that. I think that you formulate the game plan. Everything in life is a game plan. What you do today, we all have a game plan. And you know, when you take a guy, I go back in my life to people I've watched, Lombardi.
Right.
When he went to Green Bay, they stunk. Why did they change?
Right.
They changed because of him and what he made them understand. There's only one way to do things. That was his way. It was the right way. So, you know, people.
He was a leader and he inspired them.
Right. Inspiration, right. He inspired them. You don't motivate. They got to motivate themselves.
But also tactically, you've got to be sort of a genius. You got to sit there and go, hey, how am I going to get this ball downfield?
Well, the old thing, KIS says, keep it simple, stupid, because it's not genius. It isn't. It's beating the other guy. You know what he's doing. You know what you do best. But if you're ever going to give up doing what you do best to try to defeat the other guy, you're not going to defeat him.
After an incredible career in Chicago that you had, you retire for 3 years from coaching, and then you come back and you go to New Orleans.
Yep.
Was that a mistake in retrospect? I mean, who the hell need? You got a lot of aggravation in New Orleans, right? They gave you crap.
Not really. I tell you what, you know, to say why I did it, I thought it was divine intervention because, you know, you got to understand now. I've been part of 3 Super Bowl winning teams, 2 Super Bowl as an assistant coach and a head coach, and then both of them were played in New Orleans. So I said, God's calling me to go to New Orleans. Unfortunately.
You mean you thought you got a sign from God?
Yeah, but unfortunately,
turns out God wasn't talking to you.
No, he was. It was a short stop.
Right.
But anyway, no.
But you hated the fans there?
No, I didn't. Never hate.
No,
the fan. Listen, they're the greatest fans in the world. They're the most. I mean, they've hung in there for 46 years. And what happened in that city last year with them winning the Super Bowl was the greatest thing in the world.
It was a great story.
I mean, Katrina, the whole thing. I mean, I was there through all that stuff. It was crazy.
Is it difficult for you to negotiate a contract with Fox, knowing how many guys out there, you know, fine sportscasters, want your job?
I've done it now for 20-plus years.
Right.
You know, it's not an easy job to do. Everybody's good over here. But when they're counting you down for 120 million people to watch, the network has to know that you're not going to fuck it up.
Right.
And they have to trust you. That's what they're buying with me. They're buying somebody that they know I'm not going to make a dumb decision this Sunday and say something that's going to get the network in a bunch of trouble. That's the premium. And that, unless you've sat in that seat, you don't know what that feels like.
Right. It is tough. I mean, when you have that many people listening and who are all experts on their own,
well, yeah,
and you've got to know something, you cannot fuck up the information.
No, and I think the sports fan in today's world is way more intelligent than back even when I started because of the internet, because of the betting, because of fantasy football. They know people come up to they know more about. Richard probably knows more about the Chiefs and the Royals than I do.
Do you study a lot?
I mean, when I read every day. You have to read every day to keep up because, you know, there's 5 stories a day. The problem is when you do a Super Bowl, there's an off week, and you compile so much information going into that game. I have this board that I make up. You start piling all this info on there, and by the end of 2 weeks, you can't read any of it.
Do you have a staff that helps you with that?
You know, there's no time for that. I mean, and I need to do it myself. Like, I need to put the names and numbers and heights, weights, college. I have to to do that.
Because if you call the wrong, like you say, oh, that was number blah, 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 so you're dead.
I get
That's
a bunch
when
of
you're
shit for, in 07, I did the Giants in the Super Bowl, and David Tyree makes this catch. And if there's one call I've made that I get more trouble for, it's this catch. So it's in the fourth quarter. It was an unbelievable game. It's the only time my heart was about to jump out of my chest doing a game because you go, my God, there's 100 million people. It's the Patriots were going for a perfect season. The Giants, they're from New York. My God.
Right.
It gets no bigger. And Eli Manning avoids this sack, heaves it downfield, and David Tyree, kind of a third receiver, makes this catch where he pins the ball on his helmet.
I remember that.
And all these arms and these bodies go to the ground. And I'm up there like, first of all, I thought Manning was sacked. Secondly, I can barely see who caught it, whose helmet is it. And people are like, you didn't give that catch it's
Due.
it's due. Like, you sit up there. If I start going, oh my God, an unbelievable catch by David, it's incomplete. I beg your pardon. You have to be sure when you do a Super Bowl.
So when you're calling the game, are you watching a monitor of the game or are you watching the field?
I watch the field, but the monitor is in front of me to where if the picture drastically changes, I see it and I can go to what they're showing. I mean, when we do a Super Bowl, I don't know the total number, but there's over 30 cameras in the stadium that are so they can show you just about anything.
But there's no statistician or
during the game
there is.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I do a game and I've got this board I make up. So I do all that myself, but then I've got a guy, Dave Schwabe, Staten Island's own, who's over my shoulder helping me with who made the catch, who made the tackle.
Is it the greatest feeling as a man to take down a quarterback?
Oh, my goodness.
What does that feel like?
When you come around that corner and you put that move on that lineman and you turning and he's squared up in that pocket, you know you can't hear anything at this point.
Right.
It's like you in a tunnel and it's just like that. It's quiet.
Yeah.
And when you hit him and drop and you hear that oof from him, that's the first thing you hear is the oof from him. And when you open your eyes or you look up, it's like somebody just like took headphones off of you and the crowd is there and chill getting them now.
I know. And the fans go crazy.
Oh my God.
And your teammates love you.
Oh my
it's
God.
like the greatest
beat you
embrace.
upside the head.
They don't know what to do.
Oh yeah, they beat you upside the head and then you're hoping it's third down so you're done, but sometimes it's second and then you got another play, so you got to bring yourself back from that,
Oh man, do you feel good? like do you if you break that guy, like literally break his leg?
No.
I would think. Well, listen, you can't control that. If you hit a guy,
like with the Lawrence Taylor and Theismann when he wrapped him like that.
I remember that.
I think he was just wrapping him like a boa constrictor because he wanted to take him down. And then when you saw Lawrence's reaction when he jumped up, like, come help him. You don't never want that feeling on your resume
because that ended Theismann's career. That was it. I mean, he never really recovered.
My God. That's before modern medicine.
So you would feel bad doing that to somebody.
Oh my God!
Did you ever end someone's career?
No.
So have you ever held back so that you haven't held back?
No.
So you hit him and you hope that you don't kill him.
I know what the hidden area is.
But don't you think it's a crazy sport in a sense because a guy your size with your speed.
Game.
Yeah, but a guy your size with your speed coming at that velocity, and sometimes quarterbacks are blind on their one side to see you. They go down. I mean, it is that's the train wreck. They go down.
That's what I want.
Don't you think in a way someday football will change and you will not be allowed to hit the quarterback? It'll almost be like two-hand touch. You
can't hit the receivers now. They built the Autobahn in the middle of the field. Where you been?
That's what I'm saying. Do you love the game?
Oh, love it.
Love it. And you love being a commentator. You love the whole thing.
All of it. There's nothing better than a kid's game.
Doesn't it blow your mind like a guy like Tom Brady, who I'm sure you get asked about all the time? How does this guy play season after season with so few injuries? It's almost unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, you get pretty damn banged up in a football game. It's crazy.
First of all, Lady Luck plays a role.
Right.
Anybody can get hurt. Anybody can have an accident. The joints were designed by evolution or make or whatever to be bending a certain way. A knee is supposed to bend this way, back and forth, not sideways.
Nope.
And when that happens, you're tearing ligaments. Tom is the best. I've been asked that question for many years, and Johnny U was my hero. Otto Graham was great, Slinging Sammy Ball. I go back, these guys.
These are the guys
great.
You watched.
But meantime, Tom has been challenged more in recent history, certainly, with huge games than anyone I could recollect, and he stepped up every time.
It's unbelievable.
Here's a quarterback. When I watch pro football games, college games, you can literally see, and I actually lost games for our team by throwing poorly, throwing interceptions. I have not seen Tom Brady lose a game for his team.
Is he the greatest that ever was?
I would have to say he's the best at answering the challenge there ever was. Yes, I've not seen anybody have that many big games and answer the challenge as well as he has.
It's crazy to me. I'm not a super big knowledgeable guy about football, but when I watch this guy play, he just pulls it out of somewhere. And that's the thing. How many guys did you play with in high school who you would even consider who were better than you, but for some reason they never make it to the pros. Like, what is that X factor that makes a guy a pro like you become one of the legends?
Desire to start with, and again, luck. Injuries come into play, and different positions. Some guys physically they're built to be a center, a guard, a tackle, and it's a team thing. The quarterback's not going to go from here to there or do anything without those cats blocking for him up front.
Right.
You know, the best quarterback that I know of that's not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and he would be the first Manning into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, is their daddy, Archie.
Right.
But he played for the New Orleans Aints, not Saints. The New Orleans Aints.
Right.
They used to wear bags over their heads when they went to the game.
Man.
And Archie was running for his life all the time.
When did you decide, I want to leave New England and I want to go to a new team?
I probably knew before the start of last season that it was my last year. Before last offseason, I had a contract that got restructured. And then basically, you know, from my standpoint, I knew that at the end of the year, I was going to become a free agent for the first time in my career. And I had spoken about it with the ownership of the team, Mr. Kraft, and he was good with it. I had spoken about it with Coach Belichick. He was good with it, and that's what we decided to do. I said this before, there's no bigger fan of the New England Patriot organization than me. You know, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that I could continue to play there at the highest level. I want to prove to myself that I can still perform at the highest level.
Did you go over to Bob Kraft's house and sit there and say, "Hey, Bob, this is it. We're done"? And do you call? I mean, where do you go to make that announcement to these guys who you've spent your whole career with?
I called up, Mr. Kraft, and I went over to his house, and I went over and I said, "Look, I just want to say, how much I love you and appreciate what we've done together, and I know that we're not going to continue together, but thank you." I was able to call Coach Belichick at the same time and thank him. I wanted to hear from me how
Were there
I felt
tears?
about him and how I felt about. Yeah, I was crying. I'm a very emotional person. I have a deep caring for the people that I've worked with, and I wish nothing but the best for them.
I thought the saddest thing I heard through the whole Super Bowl, Gary and John were on the wrap-up show. They got the Crafts to come by, and they even got Mahomes to come by. And they put Richard on with Mahomes, and you started crying to Mahomes. Dude, you are so fucking odd.
I couldn't control myself.
Do you have that on tape?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to play it for you.
Oh, I don't want to hear it.
Oh, my God. You're such a fucking weirdo.
I get emotional, like Whitney Houston sings
He's a
about.
baby man.
I'm going to play this for you, but Richard starts crying to Mahomes. First of all, you're like, Patrick, what you done for Kansas, and you're going to bring the Super Bowl, and you don't know what it means for people like me.
It means nothing.
It means a lot, Robin. Come on, Robin.
Like people like you, you're a guy who got out of Kansas. You work on the Howard Stern show. You live in Manhattan.
If Kansas is so great, why did you leave?
Yeah, you work in Manhattan.
Because the show isn't based there.
You're not typical of a Kansan. So when you tell Mahomes, people like me, how many people? Here, you got to hear this. Listen to this fucking maniac.
Well, I mean, he's just like this amazing ray of hope that, what you've brought to Kansas City is.
Mahomes is probably thinking, I got to get off this show. I came in to have fun, like this fucking weirdo's crying.
I'm getting emotional. Sorry, Patrick.
It's all good.
You've just brought so much happiness to people like me and, Chiefs fans. I had so much fun watching you this year, and you just mean so much to me and to everybody in Kansas City and all my friends. We have a Chiefs bar here in Queens, New York that we watch from, and we just have such camaraderie.
This guy's thinking to himself, who is this weirdo? Like, I don't even want to be in Kansas City. I just got, they
that's
picked me
who
up.
hired me.
And you just made us so happy this year. And I am so excited for what's to come in the many years ahead. So thank you, Patrick.
No, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate everything you said. And hopefully we can get that Super Bowl for you here soon.
Yeah, I hope to see you in Miami a year from now. So.
Yes, for sure.
Richard, you're super close with your dad. And you had told me how you guys kind of bond over the way Patrick plays and his whole story.
Absolutely. I mean, my dad, I was born in 74, so I didn't get to see the Chiefs win the Super Bowl in 1970, but my dad did, and my dream is for myself and my dad to be able to watch the Chiefs win the Super Bowl together.
He's like, is this guy dying? What's going on here?
He must have been so happy I wasn't there live.
He's 23 years old. You're like a 45-year-old man, so I think he's freaked out.
Yeah, right. I didn't even think about that.
Well, they asked him.
To him, it's like, who's this old fuck who's crying?
They asked him if a guy's ever cried in front of him, and he said no.
Now he has had that happen.
And I know that you can make that happen, Patrick, and just thank you, man.
We're going to get it done for sure. We'll make that happen for sure.
I know you will. And that's why I love you so much, man.
You know what he's thinking?
It.
During this whole time, how long is my contract?
All right, I got.
Because I will be out of there.
Fucking baby, you're out of your mind.
I can't wait for him to leave Kansas. I can't wait.
I hope Mahomes leaves.
Hey, don't even say that.
I hope Mahomes goes to like the Jets.
That's so mean.